Hello and welcome to News Central Television. I am Lekan Onabanjo. The top stories at this hour. Christian faithful celebrate Easter Sunday amidst economic hardship in Nigeria. EFCC to arraign Binance chiefs on Thursday gets arrest warrant. Somalia Parliament approves parts of election overhaul plan. Details to come your way shortly. And from News Central Television, we say happy Easter celebration to all Christian faithful all around the world. Now, let's begin by telling you that President Bola Tinubu has felicitated Christians in Nigeria and around the world as they celebrate the Easter season. Easter is an event that commemorates the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. It also symbolizes Christ's victory over sin and death. To mark the day, President Tinubu, in a statement, called on Christians to imbibe the virtues of love, sacrifice, and compassion associated with the season. Since assuming office in May, President Tinubu's administration has embarked on several policies that have had an effect on the masses and the economy. In his Easter message, the president hailed the resilience and sacrifices of Nigerians, saying it is necessary for economic recovery. As Nigerians mark Easter Sunday, the joyous occasion comes amidst prevailing economic challenges gripping the nation. Despite facing hardships worsened by inflation, unemployment, and dwindling purchasing power, citizens across the country are embracing the spirit of hope and renewal that accompanies the resurrection of Jesus Christ. In various communities, churches are adorned with vibrant decorations as worshippers gather to commemorate the resurrection of Jesus Christ and reflect on the significance of the Easter season. However, the economic realities cast a shadow over the festivities, with families grappling with rising costs of living and limited access to basic necessities. The recent surge in food prices have added strain to already burdened households, prompting calls for urgent interventions to alleviate the plight of the masses. Meanwhile, Nigerians are resiliently embracing the spirit of Easter despite the challenges, emphasizing the values of love, compassion, and solidarity. So joining me now to talk more about this, I will start with Bettina Nweli, who is actually in Lagos and has been monitoring the Easter celebration in Lagos State, and she will be giving us details. Bettina, let me start by saying happy Easter Sunday to you.
Of the blessed family all over the world. I want to say
Hello, Bettina, can you hear me?
And good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. So tell us, how would you describe this year's Easter celebration from where you are?
I just want to grab as it were the essence.
Well, I will say that the turnout, especially in this particular parish where we are, is a bit low. Because I remember when we had to come here during the New Year crossover service, there was an overflow. Even outside, it was packed to the brim. Now, the only reason I could attribute that to will be the fact that maybe because it was New Year and a lot more people were more sentimental. But other than that, I would say that the economy and cost of living have really affected how people are celebrating Easter this year. As you can see, the church is a bit full, but there's still a lot of space compared to what we have seen in the past when we have celebrations like this in this parish.
Well, have you spoken to maybe any of the members in church to actually get an idea of how they also feel as regards celebrating Easter? Because we understand what the situation may be, but then how do you think they are also trying to live within their economic means to celebrate the day?
Among which was Mary Magdalene.
Well, earlier I had the opportunity to speak to the head pastor of this particular church, and yes, they acknowledge that things are tough in the country, and of course it's affecting members of their parish. So they try their best once in a while what they can do, give out food stuff, give out cash allowances to members who are in need. And I can tell you for a fact that that is why you can see a lot of people here, because it's not easy. And then when you see an umbrella that is helping you where the government is failing to do so, of course, loyalty would lie in that environment.
Interesting. So, finally, let me just get your word. What do you think was the most focal message to Christians during this? We know that, of course, the service is still ongoing, but then what would you say that the most important message for Christians during this Easter celebration is?
Just like the pastor is preaching about, Easter is about the death and the resurrection of Jesus Christ, which solidifies the faith of Christians worldwide. So it's a very important celebration, one that will continue to be celebrated years and years to come. And I hope that Christians are having the best time during this season.
Bettina Mweli, thank you so much. We'll continue to keep tabs with you. Let's see how we can actually right now cross over to Delta State to talk to Austin Azu. But then, Bettina, it was nice talking to you. All right, Austin Azu, if you can hear me, I believe you're in Delta State. I'd like to also get your reaction as regards the Easter celebration in the state. Austin.
All right, good morning. Thank you for having me. Yes, the Easter celebration is going on well simultaneously across the various churches and denominations in the state capital here. Behind me is St. Bridget's Catholic Church. This is a parish. So I will just take you around the church at the moment, and you'll see for yourself how the parish looks like. So this is the entrance. The first mass just ended, and some of the parishioners, as soon as possible, will be leaving for the next mass to begin. You can see some parishioners are already warming up for them to go in. You can see some of them are wearing white. So a quick walk done. But however, the celebration this year has never been like what it used to be before. So I have one of the parishioners who will speak to us on how he's celebrating. All right, sir, let's meet. All right, sir, let's meet you, sir. Tell us your name and how is the preparation going? How is the celebration going?
Okay, my name is
Okay, go ahead. Tell us how is it going, sir?
We're happy that Christ came to save us and we're celebrating Easter. Though it's not easy because of the grand problems since I put the church, no lights, living cost of that crisis. But at least we thank God for coming to us.
Compare the celebration of this year and last year. What can you spot out?
Of course, last year was okay. Like I said, once we celebrate, if you want to celebrate certain things, you need money. You need to buy rice, and maybe contribute to the church houses. But now, of course, we all know it's not easy. Of course, I believe we know too. It's not easy. Things are difficult. But we thank God, like I said, we thank God for everything.
Thank you. Let me just take you into the main church where you can see how the congregation looks like. So this is the church. The father is praying right now. Okay, Austin, you may need to find your way out now so that we can just ask maybe one or two questions. We can see that the turnout is quite encouraging at this time compared to what we had in Lagos. But I'd like to quickly find out one or two things from you. Austin, can you hear me? Okay, so that is our correspondent in Delta State, one of the churches in Delta State, Austin Azu, giving us live feeds of how Easter is being celebrated
in a church right there in the state. We will engage him later on during the course of the news or probably in the subsequent bulletins to get more feelers from him as regards how Nigerians are actually enjoying or observing this Easter celebration. Moving on now, the Nigerian citizens are probably the toughest in the world, given all they deal with and still keep their cool. The steady rise in the cost of foodstuff for months now has elicited reactions from the traders and end users. Some food items have, since December 2023, increased 5 times. News Central's Chumogele did a market survey in Umuahia on the current costs of food items and now reports.
With homegrown grains, fruits and vegetables, yet the people struggle to afford the food items due to the high costs.
So
it's very, very disheartening, especially for people with a large family. So you have to adjust and adjust and readjust. And at the end of the day, you will not really buy much.
Before we find out, we 500. Uba was 1,002. Leno, Gianna Nguba, Gianna. Before 400, but Uba was 1,000.
You buy market, the market after selling it, you see add another money again, almost times 2. I buy another thing.
Musa, who sells onions at Obani Market in Umuahia, says there are other factors that cause the high costs.
It's not a matter of government. This one is a matter of God.
Okay.
You understand? Because right from the harvest, the time rain was coming, and that period, the rain didn't reach the time we were supposed to harvest it.
Some of the traders are of the view that although 2024 is harsh, it is still better than 2023.
A bag of cabbage was 45,000-50,000. Now it's 37,000-38,000.
There have been reduction in every other thing except foodstuff.
From a survey conducted recently on select food items, it was discovered that only fresh tomatoes, onions, and a few other vegetables reduced in costs when compared between 2023 and March 2024. According to some people, the unstable nature of the naira is the reason for the astronomical increase in the cost of foodstuff, while others simply do not know how foreign exchange affects the costs of locally produced foods.
Most of the things that are not even supposed to be that expensive, you find them being expensive. Things like gari that are produced locally here.
To feed a family of 6 in Nigeria in a moderate lunch meal these days will gulp at least 8,000 naira.
This is just one meal provided by probably someone who doesn't earn more than 50,000 naira in a month and is also expected to perform some financial obligations and duties in the home. The government can actually make life easier for the masses if it regulates the activities of the middlemen who market these produce, put security situation in place, and also make policies that will benefit the masses in general. In Umuahia for News Central, Chinwe Ugeli.
Now, the leadership of a National Union of Electricity Employees has urged President Bola Tinubu to declare a state of emergency in the power sector. NUEE National President Engineer Adebiyi Adeyeye, who frowned at the epileptic power supply in Nigeria, described the situation as unpalatable. In a statement by Adeyeye in Osogbo on Saturday, he also urged President Tinubu to call a roundtable of all major stakeholders in the sector. According to him, the federal government is making frantic efforts to improve the power generation in the country, but they need to show some level of seriousness in making sure that Nigerians enjoy stable power supply. Now, the National Assembly has urged President Bola Tinubu to declare a state of emergency on the nation's infrastructure. According to the chairman of the Senate and House of Representatives Committees on Works, Barinada Mpigi and Akin Alabi, the state of emergency declaration becomes imperative given the enormity of the challenges on ground. While noting that the situation of the nation's infrastructure calls for thinking outside the box, the lawmakers pointed out that the financial requirements needed to fix the nation's infrastructure are well beyond the capacity of annual appropriations. You're watching News Central now. We go on a short break. We'll be back with more stories. Do stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission will on Thursday, April 4, 2024, arraign Binance Holdings Limited and two of its senior executives, Tigran Gambarian and Nadim Anjarwala, who recently escaped from custody and fled Nigeria over an alleged $35.4 million money laundering case. The EFCC had on Thursday, March 28, charged Binance Holdings Limited, Gambarian and Anjarwala with money laundering. The FCC, which has now fully taken over the case from the Office of the National Security Advisor, has also detained Gambarian and has obtained a court warrant to arrest and extradite Anjarwala. According to a source in the anti-graft agency, Anjarwala would be arraigned in absentia alongside Binance and Gambarian. Elsewhere, the Nigerian Communications Commission has directed telecommunication companies to extend the disconnection of telephone lines not linked to the national identification numbers from April 15, 2024 to July 31, 2024. This decision, communicated via a letter to telcos, came after a careful consideration of various challenges and requests for extensions. The disconnection process, which began in February, was rolled out in 3 phases. The first occurred on February 28, 2024, followed by the second phase on Friday, March 29, 2024. During the initial deadline on February 28, 2024, the industry regulator said about 40 million lines not linked to NINs will be barred. And as the first quarter of 2024 draws to a close, Nigeria faces a daunting security landscape with incidents of kidnappings and attacks on security forces casting a shadow over the Tinubu-led administration's efforts to curb crime and violence. The recent abduction of school children in Kaduna State and the fatal assault on soldiers in Delta State have raised questions about the government's strategy and capacity to protect its citizens.
The nation reeled from the news of yet another harrowing kidnapping of school children in Kaduna State, a stark reminder of the persistent danger posed by armed groups targeting vulnerable communities.
Under my leadership, no child will be left behind. All of them will come back home by the grace of God, inshallah.
These events, coupled with the ambush and killing of several soldiers by unidentified gunmen in Delta State, has amplified concerns about the effectiveness of the administration's security apparatus. President Bola Tinubu, who campaigned on promises to enhance national security, has faced criticism for the continued prevalence of such high-profile attacks within the first few months of his tenure.
Security and politics. We've brought in, non-state actors into this country.
Most important thing is to implement the revived National Security Strategy 2019. Change the current state-centric approach to security to a human-centered approach.
The citizens' patience is wearing thin as they demand immediate and visible changes. Community leaders and civil society organizations have called for more proactive measures, including the need for collaboration with local stakeholders to strengthen on-the-ground intelligence and preemptive actions against potential threats.
If we honestly investigate this issue, you'll find that it's an issue of attack and counter-attack, attack and reprisal.
What policies, what relationships, what expressions did we not make that has brought this thing on our faces?
We've seen cases where villagers harbor criminals, offer them food, give them water, welcome them. It's not helping us in any way. Yet you're not going to inform the police or any security agency.
It's very easy for us to blame people, very, very easy. But when you go through what they've gone through, when they reported incidents, and then those they report to went to the bad guys and said, these are people who reported it to us. And then the bad guys went back to the village and burned everything and throw everybody away. So why should people want to tell you what they see?
The administration has pledged to prioritize intelligence gathering, bolster the capacity of the armed forces to address the root causes of insecurity.
The dynamic of the security challenges we are facing require corresponding strategies that incorporate a holistic and integrated approach to warfare where synergy among our services is paramount.
We must treat them equally as terrorists.
The pervasive sense of insecurity has also affected economic activities, with businesses and investors being wary of the risk associated with operating in certain regions. This situation has led to further calls for a comprehensive approach that integrates economic development initiatives to address the socio-economic factors contributing to criminality. As the second quarter of the 2024 approaches, Nigerians are looking for concrete progress and a significant downturn in the frequency and severity of security breaches. In Lagos for News Central, Ni Omoni.
And away from that to political matters, Governor Uba Sani of Kaduna State says he inherited a huge debt burden of $587 million, 85 billion naira, and 115 contractual liabilities from the immediate past administration of Nasir El-Rufai. The governor, who disclosed this at a town hall meeting on Saturday while giving account of his stewardship, lamented that the huge debt has eaten deep into the state's federal allocation. He, however, said he remained resolute in steering Kaduna to the path of progress using the available lean resources. The governor also touched on the key priority areas of his government, including security, housing, education, healthcare, and support for micro, small, and medium enterprises. And now to Rivers State, where the State's House of Assembly has accused Governor Siminalayi Fubara of dishonesty, threatening to resume impeachment proceedings against him if he continues to breach the Constitution. Martin Amewule, the Speaker of the House, made this known on Saturday during a press briefing in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. Amewule, who was accompanied by 26 members of the Assembly, read out a communique issued after the briefing. The lawmakers accused the governor of refusing to hold up to his end of the presidential peace accord, which he willfully signed without coercion. The wrangling rocking the Labour Party in Enugu State has assumed a dangerous dimension following alleged plans by more elected members of the party to defect to other parties. The Labour Party took everybody by surprise when it won majority of the House of Representatives seats in Enugu and 2 out of the 3 senatorial seats in the state during the 2023 general elections. The party also won majority of the seats in the State House of Assembly, a development that forced many to believe that it would be a party to beat in future elections. But investigations reveal that the party is seriously engulfed in internal wrangling over the decision of some of its elected members to defect to other parties. Earlier, Labour Party's deputy governorship candidate in Edo State, Monday Mawa, shared his thoughts on this.
Leadership prowess that our members that have been elected to the houses of assembly, especially from our presidential candidate, they are not getting it. That is in person of His Excellency Peter Obi. It's not providing that needed leadership. And people are now worried as to what is their fate in Labour Party. Now look at the past 2 weeks now, what has engulfed the party. Abure said is now the owner of the party. The Apapa group are there. NLC came up now. So as we speak today, I can tell you categorically that we are now in what the renowned and prolific writer Chinua Achebe described in his book, The Things Fall Apart, that the things fall apart when the center can no longer hold. I think things seem to be falling apart, unfortunately, in our party, and I attribute that to lack of positive leadership. And I want to use this opportunity to call on the Excellency Peter Obi to provide the needed leadership for the party at the moment, because as a presidential candidate of the party, he is the leader of the party. So he must not look away why things are going in a wrong dimension.
And away from that, we tell you that the Kogi State government has debunked the allegation by the Social Democratic Party that it masterminded attacks on witnesses at the ongoing governorship election petition tribunal, saying the allegation was not only reckless but stands logic on its head. The state government, through the Commissioner for Information and Communications, Kingsley Fanwo, said it was, however, important to enlighten the SDP that the case at the tribunal was between parties and that the state government, which it accused, was not one. Fanwo, who spoke at a press conference in Lokoja on Saturday, noted that it was incomprehensible for the SDP to continue to exhibit anti-democratic tendencies and provoke the sensibility of the people.
But it is important to set the record straight and address the minds of the public to the tradition of lies by the SDP. The Kogi State government, under the leadership of His Excellency Alhaji Ahmed Usman Ododo, the democratically elected governor of the state, will be undaunted in its resolve to serve the people of the state rather than be entangled in the propaganda festival by the jobless and idle SDP. The Kogi State government is unwavering in its stance on security and constitutionalism as the basic minimum in ensuring a peaceful and secure state. It is important to enlighten the SDP to the fact that the case at the tribunal is between parties of which the state government isn't one.
Still talking politics, Nigeria's electoral umpire says about 19 political parties have notified the Commission of their intention to participate in the forthcoming Ondo State governorship election slated for Saturday, November 16, 2024. The Independent National Electoral Commission said the parties have duly notified the Commission about the conduct of their primaries for the forthcoming governorship election in the state. INEC, a resident electoral commissioner in the state, Oluwatoyin Babalola, made this known during a meeting with the representatives of political parties at the Commission's office in Akure, the state capital. The REC further added that the Commission received notification from the political parties for the conduct of their primaries ahead of the governorship election exercise, due to commence from April 6 to 27. Earlier, political analyst Henry Olonimoyo was on the news for insights on this.
Because this is not the usual kind of election where you have an incumbent. Usually when you're having a kind of election like this, probably you have a governor who is outgoing, who probably has the political party structure of that state firmly in his hands. And what you have, you have that outgoing governor largely anointing his successor. But due to very, very unfortunate circumstances, the outgoing, the previous former governor died, and now we now have a new governor, a sitting governor, who has probably been just governor for about less than 6 months. And, you know, being a governor now, it's not as easy as to say that he already has the structure of the party in the state completely under his hands. And so it's a bit, it has this feeling of somebody who is still not having the full apparatus of the party in his hands. And he's contending against people who see him as colleagues, as people that they feel, some of them will feel that they are probably ahead of him politically. You have former commissioner of finance in the state talking that with him. You have some other mainstream names in politics going against him. So the chances of emerging, it's a very tight one, very close one, very, very tight.
Away from politics to health, the federal government has approved the disbursement of 25 billion naira through the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund to bolster healthcare infrastructure in states. Professor Mohammed Pate, the coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, made this known on Saturday in Abuja at the 6th meeting of the BHCPF Ministerial Oversight Committee. Pate said that the funds were designated for direct facility financing and workforce incentives across states. The minister said that the initiative was in line with President Bola Tinubu's agenda and commitment to improving healthcare outcomes for Nigerian women, children, and vulnerable populations. He adds that the disbursements would be facilitated through gateways, including the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency and the National Health Insurance Authority. We now tell you that the Palestine government has accused its Israeli counterpart of a flagrant disobedience to the recent ruling United Nations resolution called for in terms of a ceasefire in the ongoing conflict. The Palestinian ambassador to Nigeria, while speaking to newsmen in Abuja, says that since the UN vote, the Israeli army has continued to bombard Gaza with missiles in flagrant disobedience to the resolution. He says Israel has continued its siege on Gaza without recourse to the recent resolution, putting the lives of millions of civilians, including women and children, at risk.
It was adopted last Monday, and since Monday till now, more than 300 plus Palestinians was killed. Israeli still bombarding Gaza. Israel is still launching many attacks by air, by sea, and by ground air against the Palestinians in Gaza.
Coming up on the news, Somalia's parliament approves proposals to overhaul electoral system. We will bring you details of this and other stories when we return from this break. So stay with us. The news continues in West Africa, where African economists are seeking alternative external debt restructuring templates to redirect the current debt burdens on the continent to a sustainable level for a smooth recovery and economic growth. They made this call at the end of the three-day international conference on Africa debt crisis in Accra, Ghana. News Central's Adeshewa Dushoga reports.
As the International Conference on Africa Debt Crisis winds up in Accra, Ghana, the takeaways from the speakers here are focused on the alternative external debt restructuring template. And as we know, debt restructuring is necessary to bring debt burdens back to sustainable levels and limit the negative impact of greater debt servicing on what is already a fragile socio-economic environment like we have in African countries.
We've proposed quite a number of different elements. For instance, the issue of the involvement of the multilateral development banks in debt restructuring, the issue of the participation of private creditors in debt restructuring, both are not really binding.
Debt restructuring is a sovereign decision. Thus, the panel conversation highlights the options available to African countries and set out a number of key recommendations to guide countries and strengthen the continental debt restructuring framework.
Debt relief is essential, and all classes of debt, to the extent that they can actually be included, should be on the table, right, including multilateral debt. Second, innovations that can help African countries to not only improve debt sustainability, but also address their pressing development needs in terms of financing that is necessary for development and also for climate.
When the IMF comes to any individual country and looks at whether or not it can sustain its debt, it does this exercise called a debt sustainability analysis. It looks at GDP growth, looks at exports, and it says how much debt can this country actually carry. But a key part of how much debt it can carry depends on what the IMF is assuming that the government will do with its budget policies.
Economists here agreed on few things, and that's the fact that choices and approaches regarding public debt restructuring are mainly influenced by country-specific factors, which includes the national debt profile, the prevailing macroeconomic conditions, the structure of the domestic economy, and the political and economic considerations of the country in question. In Accra, Ghana, for News Central, Adeshewa Dushoga.
We'll now take you to East Africa, where Somalia's parliament on Saturday unanimously approved proposals to overhaul the country's electoral system to reintroduce universal suffrage, a plan that has been criticized by some leading politicians. Last March, President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud pledged to end the complex clan-based indirect voting system in place for more than half a century in the troubled Horn of Africa nation. The central government and 4 federal states recently announced an agreement that a one-person, one-vote system would be introduced in local elections set for June 2024. However, the proposals still need to be approved by Parliament. On Saturday, lawmakers approved 4 of the 15 constitutional chapters that are due to be amended as part of the overhaul.
maanta waa maalin taariikhi ah, waa maalin weyn, waa maalin Soomaali u ah muhiim gaar ah, waa maalin aan ka baxnay kumeelgaarkii dastuurka kumeelgaarka la helay sharci la isku dhaqan karo oo macquul oo la taaban karo.
waa maalin runtii la soo gaaray in baarlamaanka jamhuuriyadda federaalka Soomaaliya labadiisa aqal maalintii uu ku guuleystay ansixinta iyo dhamaystirka dastuurkii qabyada ahaa.
Still ahead on the news. Israelis demonstrate in Tel Aviv for release of hostages. We'll bring you details in a bit. Do stay with us. From other continents, we tell you that protesters have called for a hostage deal and for elections are gathered in the front of the Israeli Defense Ministry in Tel Aviv during a rally. Some of the protesters blocking the highway were met by a police water cannon.
We come to protest here today, like we do every week, against this government, who is a legal government, but is an illegitimate government. This government, after last year trying to pass the judicial overhaul and thus making us weak from within, neglecting the Israeli public on October 7th and from October 8th on, still not helping, still not recovering, still not, still neglecting the people. So we are saying this government cannot continue. This government cannot be the one who will fix things. This government has to go right now, and we need to go to election.
המסר שלי שראש הממשלה איבד את הכיוון. הוא לא עוסק בעניין החזרת החטופים, הוא מתעסק בדברים אחרים שלא רלוונטיים למחדל של 7 באוקטובר. אני דורשת שילך הביתה, יניח לנו, ייתן לנו לנהל את המדינה, ושמישהו אחר יחזיר לי את מתן ויחזיר לנו את החטופים.
Now, the complex process of clearing the tangled wreckage of the Baltimore bridge that collapsed has begun with removal of a first section. Maryland Governor Wes Moore says during a press briefing that the process would take time. The collapse killed 6 people and blocked traffic through the busy U.S. ports.
The Army Corps and their partners will begin to move forward with the crane operations today. The north sections of the Key Bridge are going to be cut up and removed. This is going to take time to clear this section of the collapse. It's not going to take hours. It's not going to take days. But once we complete this phase of the work, we can move more tugs and more barges and more boats into the area to accelerate our recovery. This is not just about Maryland. This is about our nation's economy. The port handles more cars and more farm equipment more than any other port inside this country, and at least 8,000 workers on the docks have jobs that have been directly affected by this collapse.
May I bring you business news. The federal government of Nigeria has ordered the linking of the Port Harcourt-Aba rail line to the Port Harcourt and Onne ports in Rivers State for freight operations to commence. The announcement was made by the Minister of Transportation, Senator Seidu Alkali, during his visit to Port Harcourt, where he inspected the progress of the Port Harcourt-Aba railway track reconstruction. Senator Alkali revealed that while the construction of the rail line has reached an advanced stage of completion, the commencement of train operations within the route, initially scheduled for March 2024, would be postponed to April due to some technical issues. Expressing his disappointment at the delay, the minister emphasized the importance of meeting deadlines in infrastructure projects. The Central Bank of Nigeria has removed the limits and restrictions on transactions on the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System. This is contained in a circular dated March 12, signed by Hassan Mahmoud, CBN's Director of Trade and Exchange Department. PAPS is a cross-border financial market infrastructure enabling payments transactions across Africa, bridging trade challenges in a continent with over 41 known currencies. In June 2023, PAPS signed a memorandum of understanding with 5 African multinational commercial banking groups, such as UBA and Access Bank, for seamless cross-border trade payments. The inflation rate for March dropped to 5.7% from 6.3% in February, the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics now says. This is despite an increase in the prices of some food items, transport, housing, and water, among others. However, KNBS Director General MacDonald Obudo noted a significant drop in the prices of selected commodities in March. Prices of 1 litre of petrol, diesel, and kerosene dropped by 3.5%, 2.6%, and 2.3%. The prices of cooking gas and rent went up by 1.4% and 0.4%. We talk sports now. Green Berets Football Club and Gallant Queens Football Club have emerged champions of the 2024 Kaduna State Football Association FA Cup in the men and women's category, respectively. Both teams are owned and sponsored by the Nigerian Army. Green Berets defeated Simobian Football Academy 2-0 in the men's final, while Gallant Queens humbled Kada Queens 6-0 in the women's final played at the Ahmadu Bello Stadium on Saturday. The acting director of Fiscal Training Army, Brigadier General Abdurrahim Bello, expressed delight with his side's victory, adding that the clubs would represent the state creditably at the National Federation Cup. Brigadier General Bello also dedicated the trophies to the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tauri Lagbaja, for his support in financing the teams. Let's also tell you that Danielle Collins, an American tennis player, clinched her inaugural WTA 1000 title. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, we'll take a look at some of our top stories. Christian faithful celebrate Easter Sunday amidst economic hardship in Nigeria. EFCC to arraign Binance chiefs on Thursday gets arrest warrants. We also told you that Somalia Parliament has approved parts of election overhaul plan. You can send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number and email on your screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. And you can also watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Arvo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching and happy Easter celebration once again. I am Lekan Onabanjo.